Okay, hello everybody. So as I was looking through your HTML scripting assignments, I realized that a lot of you were having a lot of problems. So we can't spend any more class time on this, so I thought I would record a little video and hopefully that will be helpful for some of you. Okay, so now I guess I will start from kind of scratch just because there seem to be people confused um, along some of the earlier stages as well as, the final stages of uploading your site and making it go live. So I will start there. Okay, we don't need that open. Okay, so obviously one thing that you're going to use is Dreamweaver, right? And another thing that you need to have is the free hosting website. So that's at freehostingeu.com. And of course, click on the client login. I'm working on my computer, so it remembers my login, but that's something that if you are working on a machine on campus, you'd have to make sure that you remember your login. So hopefully all of you do. So in case, so I will go ahead and log in. Now, I've already created a couple of subdomains, but I'm going to create another one right now just so that you see the process again. Okay, so here I am logged into Free Hosting EU. Now, to create a new subdomain, which will be a new URL that you can use for a website, what I need to do first is to go up to this hosting tools menu, and I want to go down to the domain manager. So the very first item that I can select, right? So I'll click on domain manager. And then here I want to choose create a free subdomain, right? So you can create a .biz, a .org, or a .net like we've been doing. So whatever you want to do. I'm just going to create another .net. Maybe I'll do a .biz actually. Okay, so I will just call this Hello World. And let's see if that's available. Oh, it's already taken. So I will say hello worldwide web. Okay, it's kind of a long one, but that'll be fine. Oh, someone took that one too. Okay, let's say howdy world. How's that? Okay, so success. I now have this new URL called howdyworld.eu3.biz. So now the next thing that I'm going to do is if I just click on this to open it, you can see that free hosting has given me this sort of placeholder page. This is the page that will be there until I upload a new HTML document to my server, and that HTML document has to be named index.html, and that should be with all lowercase letters. Okay. So anyways, so I've got my remote site set up. Now I want to be able to connect this with Dreamweaver. So I'm going to go back into Free Hosting EU, and this time I'm going to go down to, again, I'm going to the hosting tools, and this time I'm going to go down to FTP Manager. And really, even when you set up new sites, your FTP information can still be the same. So there's some variability, but you can see when I go to the FTP page, I'm not going to create a new FTP account, but I'm going to scroll down to the existing FTP account. And so if I click on the plus symbol next to my client ID number, which was generated when I first signed up for the site, it expands to show me three options here. And the option that I want is the information button. Okay, so I'll click on that. And when I select the information button, it shows me the information that I need to FTP into my server. So you all should remember this because it's likely to be a question on a quiz, but the 3 pieces of information you need to FTP into a server, meaning to be able to transfer files to and from a remote server, you need to have the address to the server. So the FTP address, in the case of free hosting, they call it the host name. It's a little odd, but that's what it means as the FTP address. You need an FTP username and you need an FTP password. Okay, so free hosting makes it kind of easy because your FTP username is the same as the client ID number that you use to log into your account, right? And the FTP password is the same password that you set up originally when you signed up for your site. So you might even have this information committed to memory. But in any case, I'm going to go ahead and enter this all in. So I'm going to switch over to Dreamweaver. Well, actually first, I'm going to select the URL that I just created, which is that howdyworld.eu3.biz, right? So I'll select that. I'm just right-clicking, and I'll choose copy. And now I'll go back over here to Dreamweaver, and I'm ready to set up a website. So this is just Dreamweaver with nothing opened yet. So the first thing I want to do here is go up to Site and choose New Site. So I'm assuming, so this would be, if you've already set up your site in Dreamweaver and it's working fine, then obviously you don't need to go through this step again. But otherwise, this is how you set up a site in Dreamweaver. So in here, I'll just call this Howdy World. Okay. And so that's just the name of my site, so I can reference it here on my own computer. And now I have to set up where that local folder is. So my local site folder is also called the root folder, and it's basically a folder that should contain all the files for your website, all the HTML files, all the CSS files, any images that you use, unless of course they're images you're referencing online. It should all be inside of this folder. So in any case, I'll click on the little folder icon to browse. And it's going to my site folder where I've got a whole bunch of other stuff set up. I'm just going to create a new folder. Actually, I'm going to do this on my desktop just so it's a little easier to get to. Okay, so I'm going to set up on my desktop. I'm going to choose new folder, and I'm just going to call this site root, right? So that's site_root. Okay, and there's my folder on my desktop. So I'll just make sure that's the folder that's selected. I'll click on choose, and now I've set up my local site. So the next thing I want to do is click on servers, because now Dreamweaver knows where to look to find all my local files that I'm editing on before I'm ready to publish everything to the world, right? But when I am ready to publish stuff to the world, Dreamweaver needs to know how to connect, how to call my web server. So that's what this server's information is here. So I don't have anything listed here yet, so I'm going to click on the plus button to add a new server. And here I'll just call this free hosting. You can really call it whatever you want. And then the FTP address is going to be that URL that I copied earlier, that howdyworld.eu3.biz. So I'll go back over here to Dreamweaver and I'll paste that in. Okay, make sure there are no extra spaces or anything in there. It'll throw an error. Okay, so for my username, that's going to be my client ID number. So I'll select that and I'll copy that. Again, make sure that you don't have any extra spaces or line return selected. I'll go over here to the username field and I'll paste that in. And then finally my password. So hopefully I remember what this is. Okay, and before I hit return or before I click save or anything like that, I'm just going to hit test to see if it will connect to my site without a problem. So I'll click test to test the server connection. Okay, and this is what you want to see. You just want it to say Dreamweaver connected to your web server successfully. So if you have any other kind of message, if you have an error that pops up instead, then go back and make sure you don't have any spaces, any extra spaces in any of these. Check your spelling, check for typos, retype in your password, because it's likely one of those things is causing a problem. Okay, so anyways, I'll say okay, and I'll save that. So now I have my remote information. So this lets Dreamweaver know where to connect to when I want to make my site go live to the rest of the world. And then site, it really should say local site, but this is where my files, my website lives, like right here on this computer. Okay, so I've done that, so I'll save that. And once I save that, Dreamweaver, let's expand this out just so it looks maybe a little bit more like what you guys are used to. So anyways, but when I save that, let's mount this differently here. When I save that, I now get this files panel that pops open, and the files panel will show me where it will show me my site folder. There's nothing in there right now. I can even click on my desktop and double click to open it. I can see that there's 0 items. There's nothing in there. So I will close that. And also in my files panel, by the way, if you can't find your files panel, just go up here to window and it just toggles on and off, right? So just make sure it's checked. Okay, but you'll also see in this site panel that it tells me that I'm working on the Howdy World website, just as I expected, and that I'm looking at the local view as opposed to, if I clicked on here, being able to access one of these other views, right? We're not really using a testing server in here, so you guys would just be switching between either the local view, which would be on your computer that you're working on, or the remote view, which would be the web server that you save your website files to publish them. Okay, anyways, but I'll leave that on the local view for now. And then in here, all of my site, all of my the files that I want to use on my site should be listed here. So I will get things started by just creating a new document. So I'm going to go up to File and choose New, and I want to choose a new HTML document. So new document for the first column, HTML for the second column, and then you can accept the defaults here for the third column, and I'll just say Create. Okay, and so what that created is my HTML skeleton, which starts out with the doc type declaration that just lets the browser know that this is an HTML document. And then I've got my the overall structure of my HTML document. So the main branch that holds everything else should be the HTML tag. So the closing HTML tag needs to be the very last thing on your document, okay? And then inside of that, inside of your HTML tags, you've got 2 main sections, the head and the body, okay? So things like references to style sheets or any other sort of external things you want this web page to recognize would be linked up here in the head of your document. You would tell this HTML document where to find it. Whereas anything you actually want to appear on the page would be inside of these body tags, after the opening body tag and before the closing body tag. So that means the very last 2 things you should see on your web page, or in your code anyways, should be the closing body tag and the closing HTML tag. Okay? So now let's save this. I'm going to go up to File and I'm going to choose Save, because right now it's just kind of floating around in memory. If I go over here to my files panel, you can see there's nothing in there, right? So I'll go up here to file, I'll choose save. And hopefully you all remember this, but when you want an HTML file to act as your home page, you need to name it with the special file name of index.html. Make sure that is in all lowercase letters, okay? So Dreamweaver already chose my site root folder as the default place to save this to, which is perfect. So I'll go ahead and say save. So now when I look in here, now I can see I have an index.html document, which is the document that's opened here, right? So, and your HTML document, I'll get into the CSS in a moment here, but your HTML document contains nothing but the actual content. So you're not worrying about style and things like that so much right now. All you're worrying about when you're working on your HTML document is getting the elements in there, getting the information in there. So first of all, maybe I'll have a title here and I'll call this Howdy World Website. Okay, so something pretty simple. And here in my body, maybe I will just start out with doing an H1 tag, and I don't know, let's just call this things for now. Okay, so let's see what this looks like so far. So the way I like to preview my work, I know that Dreamweaver gives you these options where you can do a quick preview link from down here, which is fine. If you guys like working that way, that's totally cool. I just prefer to physically go to my folder and double click on the HTML file. It'll open up in my browser and you can see there's what I put into that title field, Howdy World Wide Web, or Howdy World Website, okay? And then things is what I put inside of these H1 tags in the body of my document. And so we see that that's the first thing that actually appears on the page itself, because that's the first thing that's in the body of the document. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and add in a few more things here. So let's say, maybe I do a tagline with this, and I don't know, let's say the universe and beyond. Okay, oops, it's already closed for me. Okay, so if I save that, I'm just going to file save to save that. And then I come back here to the web browser again. I'm working in Chrome, it's a pretty good one to work in, Firefox as well. But in any case, Safari is the only one that I really kind of recommend against, only because it's too forgiving, and so you sometimes don't realize you've got a really bad mistake on your site until you go into a different browser. So do yourself a favor and work in Chrome or in Firefox. Okay, anyway, so let's reload this, and there's my second piece of content there, things, the universe and beyond, right? So I've just got two headings, one H1, which is the bigger heading, and one H2, which is slightly smaller. Okay, so let's say that now I want to have maybe a little menu of some links. So there are a lot of different ways of doing this. The way that I'm going to do it is by having another tag, and this tag is called nav, short for navigation. And the nav tag is kind of like those generic div tags that I showed you all in class, in that it doesn't really have properties or a lot of properties that come default with it. It's just a way to group together links that are all supposed to be part of a menu, right? So in here, I'll just create a few links, ahref, and I'll just do a # as a placeholder for now. And I'll just call this link 1. And I'll repeat this. So anchor tag, href lets us know where we're going to. Right now we're not going anywhere, so it's just, you know, the pound sign, link to. And so you can see the, well, let me just do one more link here. So less than sign starts a tag, then the tag name, in this case A for anchor, and then the anchor tag is one of those tags that requires an attribute to work properly. So an attribute name always starts out with a space, then the name of the attribute itself, in this case it's href, and then that is going to be set equal to a value that's put inside of quotation marks. So here I'm just going to do the pound symbol again. And I'll say link 3. So these links don't really go anywhere right now. The pound symbol is just a placeholder, but it's enough to set it up to be an actual link, which is cool. So I'll go up to File and I'll say Save, and I'll reload this page, and now there's our 3 links, link 1, link 2, link 3. Okay, so nothing's really styled yet. All I'm worrying about now is just making sure I get all my basic content in there. Okay, so now the next thing that maybe I could do is do maybe a little paragraph here, and let's say a greeting. Maybe let's assume people coming here want to know more about me or want to know what I'm up to. So I'll say, want to keep up with my work. And I'll say, if you'd like to keep up with what? And maybe I could say, check out the links above to see my other social media sites. Okay, obviously these links aren't actually going anywhere right now. I'm just kind of putting in some placeholder content here. So I will save this, File, Save. And I'll go back here and I'll refresh, and you can see now I've got a paragraph there along with my navigation that contains the 3 links. I've got a tagline here and I've got a heading. So not too bad so far. And now I said here that I would have an option to sign up for a email list. So now some of you may already have this, but this is pretty. You can get a free MailChimp account, and it's pretty nice. They have a kind of a nice website too. It's really simple and clean and bold. I like it quite a bit. Lots of white space in here. It feels really easy to look at, and lots of places for your eyes to rest. That makes sense. But in any case, so this is MailChimp here, and I'm going to go into campaigns. I'm trying to remember exactly where I go to get my subscription form set up. No, I'll do this later. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to go into audience, I think it is. No, it's content.